Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Naked Truth. Trisha Hershberger here. I want to give a big shout out and thank you to our Naked Army vloggers from last week. Their videos are linked in the description below. That's Kavaja, Nathan, Dominic, Pat, Richard, James, Hiram, Prescott, and Kristen, Nelson, Lawrence, Benny, Julia, Colin, and Jenny. And I thought that I said Jenny twice, but no, I said Benny and I said Jenny. I'm second guessing myself. I don't know if you guys can hear in the background. Well, I'm sure you can see in the background that there's still a bed made because I still have house guests, or if you can hear baby Sammy crying in the background because he's having a little bit of a fit right now. But yeah, that's what's going on in my life. But I wanted this week to respond to Kurt Burgess, who said, "Hey Trisha, could you do a video on virginity?" And the reason I kind of paused before I said that is this is one that I was unsure if I wanted to tell. I mean, not really everybody's like, hey, I'm going to go on the internet and tell the story of how I lost my virginity. But I thought, if it helps anyone else at all, if they're, kind of deciding if it's the right time for them or whatnot, that maybe I could share my experience and hopefully that would help you guys wherever you are in life. So for the purposes of this video, I am talking about, vaginal penetration virginity, so penis and vagina virginity. I'm not talking about other intimate acts. I know some people, have different definitions for that, but that's what we're talking about for this video. So let's start off with my story. I waited until I was 21 before I lost my virginity, which I know the national average is around 17 years old for both men and women. I think it's like 16.9 for men and 17.4 for women or something like that. So it was a bit of a late bloomer in comparison to the average. And it was something that I put a lot of emphasis on myself. Like I thought people weren't going to want to date me if they knew that, or some other people would want to date me just because of that. And like not in a healthy way, in a like box to check off the list kind of way, no pun intended. And so I was, I was really worried about it. And I personally waited that long, not because of religious reasons, but because, I thought, well, if I do happen to get pregnant or, if something happens, I want to be in a situation where I feel like I can deal with the consequences. And at 21, I was a senior in college and, I thought, should anything happen, at least this way I can finish school and get my degree and deal with it as an adult, as a grown-up. So that's kind of what made it work for me. I was seeing someone in a monogamous relationship at the time, my college boyfriend, and he was experienced in that department, whereas I was not. And we talked about it ahead of time. And, I kind of said, I think I might be ready for this. And we didn't do like rose petals on the bed or even say like, oh, it's definitely going to happen this specific day. We just kind of talked about it. And I told him I was okay with it. And, we talked about where each other was at. And then there was one night when I thought we were just, being intimate in other ways. And then surprise! And it happened, and it wasn't like a bad surprise or anything like that, but it was definitely a new experience for me. And afterwards I kind of had this feeling of like, oh, is that it? And not because it wasn't like, not because it was like a bad experience or anything, just because, I waited my entire life for this thing that I had treasured and valued and thought was like built up so much in my mind. And then it was just kind of like, huh? And then the next day after and a couple days after, I started feeling really sad. Like I felt like I had like given up this part of myself. And again, not in like a religious way, but I felt like, wow, I mean, for 21 years of my life, I've been able to say I'm a virgin and now I can't. And that's kind of sad. Like, did I give up a part of who I am? And I felt very conflicted over it. And then immediately started dealing with some aftermath. I mean, I didn't like get pregnant right away or anything, but I got a bladder infection right away. And, when I went for my yearly checkups, I started checking abnormal and like all this stuff. And I was like, man, this is so overly complicated and totally not worth it. Not to say that it's bad or it's not worth it, but that was the experience that I felt. And obviously kind of after I got over this is a new thing jitters, like it got better. But that was my experience with it. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would just say to anybody out there, if you are considering if maybe this is the time for you, or if it's, if it's something that has been on your mind a bit lately, don't worry about if you're over the average age, because no one is more concerned about it than you are. I feel like we place this importance on it that no one else really does. And it's a really big deal to you, but everyone else is kind of okay with it. So don't let that influence you. And I would say before you go ahead and do it the first time, make sure you're prepared. Make sure that you are comfortable with the idea of doing that. Don't feel like you have to do it because you owe it to somebody else or anything like that. Like, make sure you're 100% mentally and emotionally in a state where it's okay for you. And like I said, for me, that was because I'm a very logical planner. For me, that was knowing that if there were any consequences, I independently could deal with that. But I'm sure that's different for a lot of different people, depending where you are mentally and emotionally, etc. Make sure that you talk to your partner beforehand. I definitely did that to make sure we were on the same page so no one was surprised, and make sure that you and your partner are strong enough that if the negative things do come out of it, like you get a bladder infection or, you know, or if, God forbid, you got pregnant or you got some kind of a disease, like you guys would be able to talk about that together. It wouldn't be like you by yourself and them by themselves because you abandon each other. So that communication really should be there before you venture into that serious of territory. Also, make sure you plan a time when there will be private time for you, because I can't imagine it being your first time and getting interrupted by somebody else or something else. That would be awful. I would also say make sure, obviously, that you plan to be safe, and whether that's, you know, birth control or other types of disease prevention, make sure that you're being safe and taking care of yourself, because God forbid something awful happens, then you will really feel like it wasn't worth it. Just take care of you. That's a good rule of thumb. And then I would say advice for in the bedroom and like during the actual act, especially for your first time. Make sure that the engines are revved up, guys. It's going to physically make things go a lot better for you. And what I mean by that is, you know, do your foreplay. Put in the time. Make sure you're both like comfortable and feeling romantic and in the mood, because our bodies naturally are ready to go in that state, and that's just going to make things a lot easier physically. So yeah, so that's my story, and that's my advice for what it's worth. And I know everyone's experience is completely different, and I always imagined for me that it would be, you know, with this person that I'm going to be with forever and ever, and there might be rose petals on the bed and my favorite love mix playing in the background, and it was going to be this wonderful, grand fireworks in the sky thing. And when it wasn't all of that, I felt a little bit let down. But I think that it's important to be realistic about things and to be prepared for things. So my question to you guys is virginity a big deal to you? Whether you are still a virgin, whether you're not a virgin, whatever. Do you think it's a big deal? Why or why not? Please answer that in your own Naked Truth vlog, and you can upload that to YouTube and share the link with me via the For Business Inquiries link in the About section of this channel. All right, guys, thanks so much, and I look forward to the comments and the videos this week. Take care. I'll see you next week.